Imagine for a moment that everything you've been searching for, peace, power, abundance, healing, purpose, has always been within you, that there is a sacred, silent, eternal temple deep within your mind, and that this temple is the dwelling place of God. This is no ordinary text, it is an awakening. Inspired by the transformative teachings of Dr. Joseph Murphy, this work unveils a gospel not written in ancient books or external rituals, but inscribed in the very essence of your subconscious. Because there, in that vast mental ocean, lies a divine power waiting to be activated by your faith, your word, your intention. Here you will discover that your thoughts are prayers, that your beliefs shape matter, and that when you align your mind with the presence that dwells within you, the impossible dissolves. Prepare for an inner journey where miracles are not extraordinary events, but natural laws in motion. Because when you realize that God is not out there, but in here, every moment becomes a sacred act of creation. Welcome to the gospel that transforms. Welcome to the truth that sets you free. Welcome to God within you. This is not a book that teaches something new, but one that awakens something ancient you have forgotten. You did not arrive at these pages by chance. If you are here, it is because your mind was already ready to remember. The gospel of the subconscious does not seek to found a new religion, nor to debate philosophical theories, nor to offer mental entertainment. This book is a key, and like any key, its value lies not in its shape, but in the door it opens. For centuries, mankind has searched outside itself for the remedy, the solution, the miracle. It has built temples of stone while already having an altar within. It has consulted external authorities when the only authority that transforms is the word spoken with faith. This work intends to return you to the place you should never have left, the center of your own creative power. And it does so with the most direct, everyday, and radical language, the language of mental law. Here, you will not learn as an academic student, but as an heir who awakens. Each chapter is written with the intent to make you act, not merely reflect. Each idea seeks to imprint itself not on your memory, but on your subconscious, because that is where destinies are decided. It is in that deep part of your mind where the image you hold of yourself is stored, and that image determines your health, your provision, your relationships, your body, and your environment. And that image is not static, it can be renewed, it can be rewritten, and this book will teach you how. Many have read texts about the power of thought, the law of attraction, or the metaphysics of the word, yet they continue acting as if they knew nothing. They still pray like beggars, speak like the sick, walk like the poor, decide like victims. The error is not in the teaching, it is in the habit. This gospel has only one objective, to break that cycle. Not with emotional effort nor with complex techniques, but with focused mental discipline. The subconscious is simple, but it is not weak. It is obedient, but not passive. It works day and night without interruption, faithfully executing the ideas you have planted yourself. It does not take vacations. It does not evaluate whether what you affirm is good or bad. It simply acts accordingly. That is why this book insists so much on repetition, affirmation, and sustained imagery, because just as the body learns to walk through practice, the subconscious learns through persistence. Every prayer suggested here is not a magical formula, but a precise command. Every example told is not an anecdote, but evidence. Every exercise is not a ritual, but a direct reprogramming. Reading the gospel of the subconscious is like entering an invisible temple where the altar is your mind and the offering is your word. Here, blind faith is not required, but practical application. Worship of doctrines is not demanded, but obedience to universal laws, and above all, guilt is not imposed. Responsibility is. Because when you understand that every phrase you repeat, every emotion you maintain, and every image you visualize is a living seed in your subconscious, you can no longer speak randomly, think automatically, or pray out of habit. This book does not ask you to believe in something new, only to test the eternal, to repeat an affirmation with the same consistency with which you have repeated your complaints, to speak to your body with the same fervor with which you once spoke to your fears, to visualize your good with the same clarity with which you once imagined failure, and then you will see. Because the law responds not to your pleas but to your convictions. You are about to enter a gospel that is not preached from pulpits, but from cells. That is not sung with voices, but with thoughts. That is not proclaimed to others, but manifested from within. Because true power does not need spectacle. It only needs to be accepted, planted, repeated, lived. And that is my invitation, not to read this book as someone seeking fleeting inspiration, but as someone receiving precise instructions to awaken what was never asleep, only forgotten. For if your word is law to your mind, then this book can be your new Genesis. Welcome to the gospel written from within, the gospel of the subconscious, based on the teachings of Joseph Murphy. We've noticed that over 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by clicking the subscribe button and liking the video. Thank you for inspiring us to keep creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. The Hidden Seed, the Subconscious as Divine Soil. Everything you experience in your external life has an internal cause, and that internal cause does not reside in your conscious will, but in a deeper level, the subconscious. The subconscious is the soil where every mental image, every repeated belief, every sustained emotion becomes a seed. It does not discriminate, it does not reason, it does not choose between the desired and the undesired. It simply obeys. What you plant in it with persistence and emotion, it reproduces as form, experience, or condition. Just as fertile soil does not distinguish between a seed of wheat and one of poison, but causes both to grow if watered consistently, so too does your subconscious work with the material you, often unknowingly, sow each day. Every repeated thought, especially when accompanied by strong emotion, is received as a command. If that command is one of health, prosperity, or love, the subconscious works to produce its physical equivalents. But if the command is fear, resentment, insecurity, or poverty, it fulfills that just as effectively. The subconscious does not filter, it only executes. This is why many people suffer conditions they do not consciously want, but have been feeding unconsciously for years. They have said, "This always happens to me. I never have any luck. My body no longer responds," and those phrases planted with the emotion of complaint or fear have become deep roots. The fruit eventually appears. Imagine for a moment a farmer who each morning buries seeds in his field without looking at their content. He does not distinguish between wheat or weed. He only knows he's planting something. Then he is surprised to find thorns, weeds, and crooked plants in his harvest. Whose fault is it? Not the soil, not the weather, not the system. The responsibility lies in the lack of awareness with which he planted. This book begins with that same warning. You are planting every day in your subconscious, with your phrases, with your thoughts, with your inner images. You cannot avoid planting, but you can choose what you plant, and that is the first act of real power. I have known people who transform their physical and financial lives by starting with a single sustained affirmation. A woman who repeated, "I am pure energy. My body responds to life," every night for 30 days began to notice her chronic fatigue vanish without additional medication. What happened? She changed the type of seed. She changed the quality of thought that entered her inner field, and her body, obedient to the new pattern, responded. The same principle applies to financial abundance. A man who had lived years in scarcity began to repeat, "I am a channel of infinite provision. Everything comes to me with ease." And he accompanied this affirmation with daily gratitude. In less than 6 weeks, an unexpected opportunity arose that met his immediate needs. It wasn't luck, it was harvest. The most common mistake is to think that the subconscious functions as a passive reservoir or as a mysterious, inaccessible zone. But it's not like that. It functions as dynamic, always active soil, collecting every word you speak with conviction and every image you hold with emotion. If you don't have what you desire, it's likely that you've been unknowingly planting the opposite. That's why it's necessary to begin observing what you say regularly, what you think in silence, what you repeat every night before sleep, because that is your real planting. Your inner conversation is your agricultural labor, and the subconscious, like obedient soil, is ready to produce exactly what you command. You don't need to understand the exact physiological mechanisms of how a seed germinates to trust that it will. Likewise, you don't need to grasp all the neurological processes to know that your subconscious is working. What matters is that you become aware of your role as the sower, that you understand your words are not random sounds, but instruction codes, that you realize your thoughts are not mental pastimes, but ingredients of your next outcome, and that you commit to intentionally choosing the type of harvest you want to live. The conscious mind can be compared to the gardener. It is the one who chooses the seeds. The subconscious, on the other hand, is the ground where they are planted. But if the gardener sows carelessly, allowing any stray, negative, or defeatist thought to settle in, the soil will accept it all the same, and the result will be inevitable. Hence the need to guard what you allow into your inner field, to filter what you hear, what you repeat, what you accept, because all of it becomes sowing material, and nothing planted with persistence fails to grow. Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field." Matthew 13:24. This parable, far from being an agricultural lesson, is an exact description of how your inner mind works. The field is your subconscious. The good seed is constructive thought, affirmations of truth, images of harmony. And the kingdom of heaven is the state of fullness that manifests when that sowing is consistent, directed, and sustained. You do not need to wait for external miracles. You need to begin sowing correctly, because the miracle does not come from outside. It is born from the inner law that never stops working. Now visualize your mind as fertile ground and ask yourself, what am I planting in it every morning? What am I watering with my words? What invisible roots am I feeding with my emotions? Because what you do not see today, you will soon see. And when you see it, it will no longer be time to blame the weather. It will be time to recognize the sower. And you are that sower. You are the one who chooses the seed. You are the one who can begin a new harvest today. Chapter 2. The Law That Never Sleeps. How the subconscious operates while you live, sleep, and suffer. The greatest mistake a human being makes is not disobeying a spiritual law, but ignoring that it never sleeps. The subconscious works while you walk, while you speak, while you suffer, while you sleep. It does not stop for a single moment. It does not suspend its action due to fatigue, nor does it wait for you to gain clarity before it obeys. The subconscious acts by programming, not consultation. If you feed it a clear, vivid, repeated image charged with emotion, it receives it as a command. It does not distinguish whether the image is desired or not. It simply accepts and executes it. It does not reject negative thoughts for being harmful, nor does it amplify positive ones for being noble. It operates under an unchangeable law. What you accept internally as truth, it turns into form. Every phrase you repeat, every image you visualize, every emotional reaction you sustain is taken as raw material to build the experience you will live. People often believe their problems come from chance, the environment, or destiny, without realizing that the true architect of their condition has been their internal acceptance. Everything you tolerate as truth gets imprinted. Everything you imprint with emotional intensity manifests, and everything that manifests returns to you as confirmation, closing a cycle that, if unconscious, becomes a prison. A man once told me, "I've fought poverty for years, but I never move forward." I asked him what he thought about each night before falling asleep. He replied, "I do mental math. I think about how to stretch the money, I worry." I explained to him that by doing this, he was giving precise instructions to his subconscious to produce more of the same: limitation, scarcity, lack. It didn't matter what he consciously claimed to want. If he closed his eyes sending images of worry, that was the message received. 2 weeks later, after beginning to repeat before bed, "Abundance flows to me while I rest. God is my eternal provider. and visualizing himself receiving checks, his internal state shifted. And when that changed, opportunities began to appear. While the body rests during sleep, the subconscious does not. As you sleep, it works with the last images, phrases, and emotions it recorded. If those images are of peace, health, and gratitude, the inner machinery that produces those states is activated. But if they are of anger, anxiety, or insecurity, it reproduces patterns that aggravate negative conditions. Many chronic illnesses do not develop through conscious decisions, but through the continuous dripping of sickly images before bedtime. People who relive offenses, problems, mistakes, or fears each night are signing mental contracts with suffering. The law of the subconscious does not allow appeals. It does not care if you thought, "I was only joking." If the phrase was spoken with emotion, it was accepted as real. Thus, those who repeat phrases like, "I'm going crazy," "My heart can't take it anymore," "This is going to kill me," are sowing conditions that, even said through laughter or complaints, the subconscious interprets as blueprints. And it never leaves a blueprint unfulfilled, and that's why I insist, watch what you say when emotionally upset. Watch what you say as you lie down. Watch what you imagine when you're distracted. Because those moments, although they seem minor, are direct portals to the workshop of the subconscious, and it works with what you feed it, even unknowingly. No one else can do this for you. No one else can stop the machinery if you do not intervene. Jesus said, "Out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks." Matthew 12:34. That abundance refers to the content of the subconscious. What you store there will eventually be expressed, not by divine decree, but by mental law. If your heart is full of fear, your words will be fearful. If it's full of gratitude, your words will be constructive, and those repeated words will feed the heart again, establishing a cycle of creation or destruction. The subconscious also operates in the midst of pain. Most people, when suffering, reinforce that state with thoughts of defeat. There's no way out. All is lost. Nothing gets better. These phrases, although justified by emotional distress, are commands, and the obedient subconscious turns them into increasingly difficult conditions. But if in the middle of pain you can affirm, "This too shall pass. God's light guides me. My inner being knows the way," then you begin to reverse the pattern. It is not denial. It is direction. I've seen people reverse severe physical symptoms by changing their inner dialogue. A woman with nightly palpitations who used to say, "I'm afraid of dying in my sleep," began to affirm, "My heart is strong. It beats with the rhythm of divine life. I rest in peace." Within 2 weeks, the palpitations disappeared. Was it a miracle? No, it was the law in action. It was the same principle that had been producing fear, now used with awareness to produce calm. The subconscious also obeys repeated images. If you close your eyes and repeatedly imagine a future in which you succeed, heal, smile, and do so with emotion and consistency, the subconscious registers it as real. It begins to move resources, people, ideas, physiological impulses, everything to bring you to that state. But if you imagine failure, illness, or worsening conditions, it also works to fulfill those. The question is not whether the law works. The question is whether you are using it in your favor. Just as a river cannot stop flowing, the law of the subconscious cannot stop acting. You can deny it, ignore it, mock it, but it will continue fulfilling whatever you command through your thoughts and emotions. That's why this chapter is not a warning but a revelation. You are sending instructions right now. You are building tomorrow with today's ideas. If you understand this, there are no longer victims, only unconscious creators or conscious ones. Remember, the goal is not to fight negative thoughts, but to replace them with others pointing in the opposite direction. You don't need to suppress fear, just introduce courage. You don't need to eradicate doubt, just plant certainty. Because what is sown with intention, watered with emotion, and sustained with living words, blooms. And the subconscious never sleeps. It waits for your instructions. What are you telling it tonight? Practical exercise, silent watering. Your mind is a fertile field. Everything you drop into it germinates. This exercise has been designed so that in just 5 minutes a day, upon waking and before sleeping, you water that field with the waters of conscious affirmation. We'll call this practice silent watering, because although it may seem like a small, quiet act, its effect is deep and constant. Just as a plant does not bloom because you look at it, but because you nourish it, your subconscious does not change because you wish, but because you speak to it, show it, and teach it in stillness. The best moments to influence the subconscious are upon waking, when the mind is still malleable, receptive, open; before sleeping, when rational thought weakens and the subconscious is exposed to the final impressions. Doing this exercise at both times is like sowing at dawn and watering under the protection of night. Part 1. Preparation, 1 minute. Sit in a comfortable position. No need to meditate, enter a trance, or practice specific breathing. Just close your eyes and let your body relax slightly. During this minute, do nothing but remember. Your mind listens. Imagine a bowl at the center of your chest. This is the vessel of your subconscious. You are about to fill it with new instructions. Part 2. Directed affirmations, 3 minutes. Now repeat, either softly or mentally, the following affirmations. Do so calmly, as if speaking to someone who understands you perfectly. Do not rush. Do not analyze their truth, just plant them. This is silent watering. My mind accepts only that which strengthens me. Every cell in my body responds in harmony to my word. I am whole, guided, and at peace right now. My thoughts are constructive and their fruit is visible. Divine intelligence works through me while I rest. All that is good, true, and eternal manifests in my life. Each phrase may be repeated 2 or 3 times. Do not recite them as a formula, but as someone teaching an obedient apprentice. Your subconscious does not need shouting, it needs clear direction. Part 3. Guided visualization, 1 minute. During the final minute, imagine these affirmations falling like drops of water onto fertile ground. Visualize the soil gently absorbing them without resistance. You may see tiny seeds activating, beginning to sprout. There's no need to see the full tree, just the certainty that life has begun. Your image can be symbolic: a golden field, a river of light, a blooming flower. What matters is that you feel you are training, and that what's being trained is being received. That image becomes imprinted. When you're done, simply open your eyes and go about your day. Or if it's nighttime, lie down without introducing contrary thoughts. Don't evaluate results yet, you've planted. Trust time, because as the law says, everything sown in faith blossoms in form. Do this every day for a week. Then, if you wish, personalize your affirmations. But remember, the secret is not in variety but consistency. The mind does not obey volume but frequency. It is not impressed by shouting but by persistence. Begin tonight, or better yet, begin right now. Because the moment you speak to your subconscious is the moment your life begins to be rewritten. Chapter 3. The name written in water. How words become substance. The words you use do not dissolve into the air. They dissolve into your blood, your skin, your immediate surroundings. When you speak a phrase with emotion, especially if you repeat it, you are writing with invisible fire upon the water that composes you, because you are not merely a body, you are water charged with intention, a moving structure, a flowing memory. More than 70% of your mass is water, but it is not neutral water, it is informed water. And that information is imprinted by words. Numerous modern experiments, from studies on water memory to tests with liquid crystals, have begun to confirm what the prophets already knew by faith. The word transforms substance. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. This account is not a metaphor, it is a law of the mind. Each of your words is a seed, and the emotion with which you speak it is the sun that activates it. A physician once brought me the case of a woman with chronic thermal disorders. He said she did not respond to steroids or psychological treatment. But what the woman did every day was whisper to herself, "This never goes away, I'm always unwell, nothing works for me." The doctor didn't understand, but I did. The woman was invoking a self-imposed curse, a repeated, clear, visualized command to her subconscious. She thought she was describing her condition, but in truth, she was perpetuating it. I gave her a simple series of phrases to repeat 3 times a day. My skin responds with clarity. Each cell blesses me. I am a temple of harmony. Within 20 days, her improvement was clear. The doctor had no words. The patient cried. I simply nodded. The water had changed its form. The human body is, for the most part, a liquid laboratory. When you speak, you're not throwing sounds into the air. You are dissolving instructions into the current that flows within you. And when those instructions are repeated with enough conviction, they crystallize. Just as ice is water crystallized by an external condition, cold, a concrete experience is inner speech crystallized by an internal condition, faith or fear. If you say, I'm ruined, this is impossible, life never changes. You are planting mental structures that tend to freeze into repeating experiences. But if you say, I am moving forward, everything works together for my good, the solution is already drawing near. You are melting old mental formations and allowing the new to flow in. Ancient healers didn't need medical charts. They simply listened to what the patient said about themselves. There's no way out. I'm doomed. It's too late. Such phrases revealed the true state of the soul, not just the body. And because the mind shapes the flesh, their words sealed their fate. But when the healer succeeded in introducing a new phrase, a different image, a decree of light, something as simple as, there is still a path, life awaits me, my body knows how to heal, the process of reversal began. This is not empty suggestion, it is active reprogramming of the inner pattern. Science has begun to observe how words directly affect hormone production, brain chemistry, and even gene expression. The tone you use and the phrases you repeat alter your levels of cortisol, dopamine, and serotonin. In other words, your body listens and obeys what it hears, not through magic, but through subtle mechanics. The subconscious has no sense of humor. It doesn't distinguish between joke and truth. If you say, I'm dying of laughter, it won't kill you. But if you say, this makes me sick, your immune system reacts as though you declared internal war. That's why it's wise to replace automatic phrases with conscious declarations. Don't say, I can't handle this. Say, this is resolved through my strength. Don't say, it breaks my soul. Say, it strengthens me from within. Each phrase is a strand of emotional DNA that weaves your future. What you say today, you will live in tomorrow. Once a mother wrote to me about her son who stuttered severely. She had tried therapies, exercises, doctors. Nothing worked. I asked how the boy spoke about himself. She said, he says he's broken, that he can't speak well, that he always gets stuck. I asked her to whisper these words in his ear each night before bed. Your voice is clear, each word flows. You have a beautiful message. Your mouth cooperates. After 2 weeks, the boy began to improve. After 2 months, he was speaking without blocks, because the mother's word, with faith, repetition, and love, entered the water. And the water remembered. Never underestimate spoken prayer. Don't wait for the temple or the crisis. Speak with direction every day. Use phrases as tools. It's not enough to think, you must declare. Create in me a clean heart, O God, says Psalm 51. That is the formula. Ask from within clearly with pure intention, because if you speak as one who plants, you will live as one who harvests. Repeat with me now. My words are seeds of light. My mind is living water. Everything I say with faith becomes flesh. That phrase may seem simple, but it is a structure of spiritual action. If you plant it within yourself each day, your life will begin to reflect its meaning. Your mouth is not only for communication, it is for creation. Your words do not describe your life. Your words decide it. Chapter 4. Invisible chains, ideas that turn into illness, lack, and conflict. When a person lives trapped in the repetition of problems, be they physical, financial, or relational, it is not chance that governs their life. It is an idea. An idea planted long ago, often in childhood, often through repeated phrases heard from others, often through the unconscious acceptance of someone else's belief. If that idea goes unquestioned, it becomes a pattern. And if that pattern goes unreplaced, it becomes a form of body, of behavior, of destiny. The subconscious is not a judge. It does not evaluate the fairness of what it holds. It simply executes. If stored within it is a phrase like, in this family, we all suffer from nerves, or there's never enough money, or men never change, those phrases become operational commands. You may have never said them consciously, but if you heard them hundreds of times in your environment, your deep mind took them in as foundation, as truth. That's why many people repeat the story of their parents, grandparents, or neighborhood, even as they try hard to be different. Because striving alone isn't enough. The soil must be reseeded. I knew a woman who, as a child, constantly heard the phrase, "Love always hurts." Her mother would say it while crying over her absent husband. The little girl never questioned it. She just absorbed it. As an adult, whenever she found a happy relationship, something inside her sabotaged it. Her subconscious sought consistency with its programming. If love hurts and this doesn't hurt, then this must not be love. Only when she realized that the phrase was an inherited lie could she replace it with a new one. Real love nourishes. True love builds. She began to repeat this phrase each night while visualizing scenes of peaceful relationships. Within a few months, her love life changed. Not because the world changed, but because her mental blueprint had been rewritten. The same applies to health. I have worked with men who were convinced that aging inevitably brings pain, loss, and decline. Where did they get these ideas? From ads? From family conversations? From cultural repetition? When an idea is repeated without criticism, it becomes law in the mind. But it is not a universal law. It is a personal, acquired, programmed law. And like all programming, it can be updated. Do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, says Romans 12. That renewal does not happen by chance. It happens through conscious, repeated, sustained choice. Poverty, in many cases, is not a lack of resources. It is loyalty to a mistaken idea. Phrases like, "The rich are evil," "I wasn't born to have," or "Only through great struggle can one progress," do not describe a reality. They create it. If you believe money is dirty, your subconscious will reject it even if you need it. If you believe prospering is a betrayal of your roots, you will sabotage your own success. That's why you must clearly observe what phrases live within you and which ones were not chosen by you, because those are often the most harmful. A man once told me, "Dr. Morphy, I want to succeed, but something inside me blocks me whenever I get close." I asked him to write down all the phrases he heard about money as a child. Among them were, "Money corrupts," "The rich have no peace," "God loves the poor." These phrases were not truths, they were codes, and his mind was obeying those codes. I taught him to replace them with affirmations like, "Money is a useful servant," "Abundance is divine, I prosper to serve more." When he repeated those new phrases with emotion 3 times a day for 40 days, his pattern changed. He began to earn more. His business flowed because his mind stopped blocking what it used to associate with danger. Just as plants grow toward the light, your life grows toward what you consider truth. But if your inner sun is covered by clouds of inherited ideas, your entire garden wilts. You must learn to identify and dissolve those clouds. Ask yourself, who said this first? Is this true for everyone? Is this useful for my peace? Is there a better way to think about this? These questions activate conscious thought, and conscious thought is the key to re-educating the subconscious. You are not responsible for the ideas you inherited, but you are responsible for the ideas you keep. Every time you repeat a negative phrase, you reinforce the chain. Every time you introduce a life-affirming statement, you weaken a link. No chain is eternal if you stop feeding it. Illness is often the final manifestation of a silent mental war. Conflict doesn't begin in the body, it begins in the mind. A belief in unworthiness can affect the digestive system. A belief of burden can cause back pain. A belief that you must carry everything can alter your blood pressure. This is not superstition. It's physiology guided by belief. Just as bad news can alter your heartbeat, a repeated idea can alter your organs over time. But the reverse is also true. An idea of peace, love, or sustained inner power can generate harmony, oxygenation, and well-being. You don't need to understand all the biology to change your programming. You just need to understand the principle. The body follows the mind, and the deep mind follows the repeated word. That's why, starting today, you must begin to declare phrases that oppose your former slavery. If you used to say, "Everything is hard for me," now say, "Everything works with me." If you believed, "I am what I am, I can't change," now say, "My mind is adaptable, my spirit is free." If you believed, "That's just life," begin to say, "Life transforms with me." Not because it's a magic formula, but because it is a daily, silent and firm reprogramming of the soil where everything grows. Now that you've seen how ideas become body, money or destiny, you're ready to sow again. The field is there, and you are the sower. Practical exercise 2, the silent inventory. Just as a doctor doesn't prescribe without a diagnosis, you can't transform your subconscious unless you know exactly what ideas are planted in it. This exercise is an act of personal honesty. It's about making an inventory of the phrases, thoughts and convictions that operate silently from within without your awareness. You don't need to remember every scene from your past. Just recognize which phrases are currently acting as laws in your life. Step 1. The soil notebook. Get a new notebook, call it your sowing journal. Divide the first page into 2 columns. On the left, write "Ideas that limit me." On the right, "New affirmations." For 3 consecutive days, observe what you think when you're alone, when facing a problem, or when someone talks about success, health, or love. Write down the exact phrases that come up without censoring them. Some may be, "This always happens to me, it's not for me. At my age, it's too late. People always leave me. If I win, something bad will happen." Do not judge these phrases, simply record them as a botanist would collect wild seeds, with clarity and respect. Step 2. The replacement formula. For each phrase, write a positive affirmation that is opposite, clear, brief, present tense, and powerful. If you wrote "Things are hard for me," replace it with "Everything flows easily with me." If you wrote "I'm not enough," replace it with "I am whole, capable and guided by divine wisdom." The key is that your new affirmation doesn't argue with the old one. It displaces it by superior resonance. The subconscious isn't convinced by logic, it's convinced by repetition. Step 3. Double daily reading. Each morning upon waking and each night before sleeping, open your notebook. Read it softly, not as if reciting someone else's words, but as if planting each new affirmation on the right-hand side. As you read, visualize a specific image. If you say, "I prosper with ease," imagine your bank account growing. If you say, "I am loved and valuable," visualize a hug, a smile, a healthy relationship. Don't read like you're memorizing, read like you're instructing. Remember, your word is a command to your subconscious. Your voice is law. Step 4. Daytime verbal transmutation. During the day, when you notice an old phrase appear, whether in thought, conversation, or emotion, pause for a moment. Don't fight it. Simply recognize, "This is an old idea. I no longer feed it." Then mentally affirm your new statement. This is not denial, it's substitution. It's not escape, it's re-education. Just as you replace weeds with healthy plants, every old phrase must be replaced with a new seed. Step 5. The night seal. Before sleeping, softly repeat 3 times a core affirmation you want to take root deep in your subconscious. It might be, "My mind is aligned with perfect health," or "I live in harmony with divine abundance," or "I am guided by inner wisdom at all times." This phrase will act as nightly watering, seeping into the fertile ground of your subconscious while the body rests. Additional note: don't worry if it doesn't feel true at first. What matters is not immediate emotion, but sustained repetition. Just as the sun doesn't ask if the earth wants to grow, it simply shines. Don't bargain with your doubt, just keep repeating. The feeling will follow. Do this exercise for 21 days. Don't seek instant results, focus on the process. Remember, you're not manipulating something external. You are educating an inner part that has remained loyal even in your ignorance. Now be loyal to it, with truth. Chapter 5. The Touch of Thought, How to Heal Organs and Conditions with Directed Power. Your body is not a collection of separate mechanical parts, nor a purposeless biological accident. Every cell in your body is connected to the intelligence of your subconscious mind. and every organ responds to your thoughts like a string responds to the finger that plucks it. Just as an instrument can be tuned by a trained ear, your body can be restored by a mind educated in truth. The heart, the liver, the skin, the lungs, and even the deepest bones are influenced by the constant current of your mental images and inner phrases. The mind does not merely think, it organizes. It does not merely imagine, it transmits. It does not merely remember, it creates physical conditions. In many clinical cases I've encountered over the years, I have seen men and women heal chronic ailments simply by changing how they spoke internally to the affected part of their body. A woman from North Carolina suffered from arthritis in her hands, to the point where she couldn't open a milk bottle without pain. I didn't prescribe her any medication or suggest surgery. I asked her to take her hands in hers 3 times a day, close her eyes and softly say, "Blessed hands, flexible and young, you obey the law of God. Every cell is renewed by the healing power of the infinite life flowing through me." 20 days later, she wrote to me, excited, saying she could now open jars without discomfort. She didn't use drugs, she used mental authority. This is not superstition. It is a mental law. The subconscious receives what is given to it with conviction, repetition, and emotion, and carries it out with physiological precision. If every morning you quietly repeat affirmations of life, health, and harmony for your body, you are literally programming the chemical language your cells obey. Just as the thyroid gland regulates metabolism based on electrical signals from the brain, your organs respond to mental impulses you generate by speaking, thinking, or imagining. If you say, "This makes me sick," your body doesn't take it as a metaphor. If you affirm, "I am strong and balanced," your nervous system begins to align with that signal. A woman of Hispanic descent told me how, after reading one of my articles on autosuggestion, she began talking to her lungs. She had suffered from asthma since the age of 7, and her medication caused side effects. She began sitting down each night, placing both hands on her chest and declaring, "Open lungs full of life. I breathe freely. God's air enters and renews me. Every breath is power." She did this for 5 minutes in a calm state, not expecting magical results. Within 3 weeks, her attacks had decreased. After 2 months, she no longer needed her inhaler. Her doctor attributed it to emotional improvement. She knew it was her inner language that had changed. Her thought had become a healing touch. The same happens with the heart. The heart does not beat only due to electrical impulses. It also beats from thought impulses. A retired engineer came to my office for hypertension. After ruling out physical causes, I proposed that every morning he visualize his heart as a perfect metronome, guided by the universal rhythm of life. I gave him this affirmation: "My heart beats in harmony with the peace of God. Each beat is harmony. My pressure is right. I am calm, serene, and stable." He repeated it for 3 weeks along with gentle breathing. His blood pressure dropped to normal levels without additional medication. He said, "It was as if my body was waiting for clear instructions. I gave them and it responded. This does not mean you must abandon medicine. It means you must add your inner medicine, your word, your image, your power. Each organ has a language. The stomach responds to thoughts of acceptance and safety. The liver is disturbed by repressed anger. The intestines reflect chronic fear. The skin translates feelings of shame or guilt. What do you do with this? Do you only medicate it from the outside, or do you learn to speak to it from within with a new voice? You must train yourself to direct your thoughts like a physical therapist trains a muscle. Each day, dedicate at least 5 minutes to sending healing phrases to the part of your body that needs it most. If your back hurts, say, "Spine firm, aligned with the righteousness of life. Each vertebra is light. I stand with ease." If your eyes are tired, say, "I see clearly. My eyes reflect the light of divine understanding. Every visual cell is renewed." If you suffer from fatigue, say, "My energy is renewed like the eagle's. Divine strength flows through every artery. I am full of life." Say it gently, like someone lovingly giving instructions. Do not shout. Do not plead. The subconscious does not respond to desperation. It responds to certainty. Speak with conviction, not doubt. Directed thought is the most precise tool in the universe, and you have it. It costs no money, requires no degrees, only consistency, simple faith, and focused attention. Always remember this: your word is not a suggestion to the body, it is a command. When you speak clearly, the body listens with obedience. When you speak with fear, the body responds with contraction. And when you speak with truth, the body blossoms with health. In the next chapter, you will learn how to visualize these inner commands with clear mental images and how to use that visualization as a biological engine for advanced healing processes. But first, begin today to speak to your body as you would to a beloved child you wish to see restored. Your body is not your enemy. It is your fertile field. And thought is the hand that plants the seed. Chapter 6. Guidance on how to pray so that the creative mind obeys you. Praying, in its purest sense, is not kneeling down or raising your voice to the heavens asking for uncertain favors. Prayer is not begging. Prayer is not crying. Prayer is commanding. It is instructing. It is speaking with conviction to the creative intelligence that dwells within you. That which many call God and others call energy or source is not outside of you waiting for you to plead. It is inside you waiting for you to command with clarity and certainty. The most common mistake humanity makes is not praying incorrectly, but misunderstanding what prayer truly is. True prayer is not spoken with the lips. It is impressed with clear emotion and a sustained mental image. The subconscious mind, which we have learned to recognize as the hidden workshop of all physical manifestation, does not distinguish between reality and imagination. It does not discern between what you desire and what you fear if you fear it intensely. It does not argue or interpret. It only executes what you feel as truth inside. Therefore, when you pray in desperation, it is the feeling of lack that the mind receives, not the contradicting words. If you say, "Lord, save me," but inside you feel doubt and defeat, the message your mind receives is, "I am lost. There is no way out. Everything is wrong." And that is what manifests. Effective prayer is not shouting louder or repeating more times. It is speaking as one who has authority, like an architect delivering plans to a builder, like a doctor issuing a precise prescription, like a teacher giving clear instructions. Faith is not believing that some external power will solve your problems out of compassion. Faith is knowing without a doubt that the infinite mind within you has already begun to execute the image you gave it as final. Therefore, prayer is not waiting. It is activation. A merchant who had lost his job visited me one Tuesday afternoon. He had sent over 20 job applications without any response. He told me, "I have prayed every day, but nothing happens." I asked him, "How do you pray?" He answered, "I tell God I need help, that I am desperate, that I cannot go on like this." I explained that this was not prayer, but reinforcing the state he wanted to leave behind. I asked him to repeat this simple formula 3 times a day. "Thank you, Father, because now I have a perfect job with abundant income in harmony with my inner peace and my spiritual growth." On the 3rd day, one of his former clients called to offer him a well-paid position. He did not attract the job by miracle, but because he stopped begging and started declaring. Effective prayer has 3 ingredients: a clear image of the outcome, a feeling of fulfillment, and serene repetition. It does not require shouting or spectacle. It is as silent as a written order, but as powerful as a legal decree. When you pray, you are not speaking to a distant God. You are speaking to the internal factory of your being. You speak to the power that moves your cells, digests your food, beats in your heart while you sleep. That power obeys you, but only when you speak with precision and confidence. Do not say, "I want health." That is vague. Say, "Thank you, because every cell of my body vibrates in harmony with perfect health. I am whole, strong, and balanced now." Do not say, "My God, do not let me lose my house." That transmits fear. Say, "I am protected by the law of divine order. My home is secured by the power that provides and sustains. I live in peace without fear." Do you see the difference? One phrase conveys lack, the other certainty. The subconscious obeys the latter. Jesus did not say, "I hope you can walk." He said, "Rise and walk." His faith was directive, not consultative. It was imperative, not speculative. He did not pray to be heard by God. He spoke as if God was speaking through him. And that is exactly what you are called to do. When you pray, you are not sending a letter to heaven. You are tuning a frequency that reconfigures your reality. A father with a son suffering from vision problems wrote to me from Mexico. He had prayed for months asking for healing. I proposed a change. Each night, as he watched his son sleep, he would imagine his face lit up and his eyes healthy and declare, "The light of God shines in you. Your vision is clear, perfect, restored. You are healthy, whole, and happy." He did this for 30 nights. His son began to show gradual improvement. His testimony was brief but powerful. I stopped pleading and started instructing. My faith now has direction, and that is what you must do too. Stop praying like a beggar. Pray like one who commands. Use your words like keys on a precise instrument. Sit each night. Breathe calmly. Visualize what you desire as if it already exists, and say your affirmation in the present tense with anticipatory gratitude. Do not say, "I want peace." Say, "I am at peace." Do not say, "I need money." Say, "I have a perfect channel of divine provision." From now on, every time you say, "I am," know that you are activating the first law of the universe. I am blessed, I am healthy, I am guided, I am successful. That is prayer, and that is faith with direction. Practical exercise 3. The scientific 7-day prayer. Reprogram your subconscious mind with accuracy and consistency. This exercise is not symbolic nor ritualistic. It is a conscious application of the subconscious law, consisting of precisely sowing a positive affirmation, supported by thought, word, and feeling. Effectiveness does not depend on how loudly you pray, but on how exact you are when declaring. The goal is to demonstrate in 7 days that your inner mind responds to specific, repeated, and emotionally accepted instructions. If there is no visible response in this short time, the error is not in the law, but in the vagueness of your instruction or in the internal emotional contradiction that accompanies it. General instructions. Choose one single goal, not 3, not 5. 1. It can be physical, healing, emotional, harmony, financial, provision, or relational, reconciliation. Write that goal as if it has already been achieved. Avoid the future tense. Example, "I have abundant and steady income," not "I will get money someday." Choose a fixed schedule twice a day, upon waking and before sleeping. During this time, no interruptions. This time is your laboratory. Sit with your back straight, breathe deeply 3 times, close your eyes, visualize the result for 1 minute, then recite the affirmation aloud or mentally, feeling it as a fulfilled fact. Repeat the affirmation 10 times per session, no more. Excessive repetition causes anxiety. Firm repetition produces results. During the day, if mental contradiction or negative emotion arises, silently repeat, "I replace this with the truth of God in me. It is already fulfilled." Keep a journal of sensations, intuitions, and changes. Do not seek immediate external proof. Observe the internal transformation. Daily activation formulas. Example for the goal: restore perfect health in my physical body. Day 1, decision. I decide that my body is healthy now. Infinite intelligence guides me. Every cell responds to perfect health. So it is. Visualize your body as an ordered, radiant temple. Day 2, repetition. Health is my natural state. My subconscious knows and executes it. There is no disease in my divine design. Visualize each organ functioning harmoniously. Day 3, affirmation. Thank you, Father, because I am whole. Vital energy flows freely through all my being. Nothing opposes my well-being. Visualize a stream of light descending along your spine. Day 4, clarity. My mind is clear, my instruction is one. I am healthy, whole, full of life. That is the only truth I accept. Visualize your serene face, calm breath, steady pulse. Day 5, reinforcement. Every word I speak reinforces my perfect design. My body responds to my language. My word is law in my universe. Visualize golden letters descending over your body like written commands. Day 6, stability. Nothing disturbs me. My faith is firm. My mental image does not change. I see, feel, and declare health, and it manifests without delay. Visualize a luminous root stabilizing in your abdomen's center. Day 7 confirmation. Thank you, because it is a fact. I am in perfect harmony with my higher self. My body already reflects what my mind sustains. Visualize your healthy reflection with deep gratitude. Additional application. You can adapt these formulas to any other goal: prosperity, family harmony, mental clarity, forgiveness, etc., maintaining the same logical order. Decision, repetition, affirmation, clarity, reinforcement, stability, confirmation. This exercise is not a test for God or the subconscious. It is a test of your commitment to your own word. Repeat this sequence each week to cement a new mental pattern and create a constant manifestation channel. If you miss a day, start again, not as punishment but as awareness. Chapter 7. What enters comes out. Thought as food, image as substance. The human mind is above all a digestive apparatus. Just as the stomach breaks down food and assimilates its nutrients to nourish the blood, the subconscious breaks down thoughts, images, and words and transforms them into emotions, conditions, and tangible realities. Every accepted idea is not merely a passing mental reflection. It is substance that will be assimilated, metabolized, and eventually expressed. Therefore, whatever you feed your mind will inevitably come out as a result in your body, your environment, and your future. Just as no sane person would willingly ingest poison or molten metal, it seems strange that millions of people daily consume thoughts of failure, anguish, or resentment as if they were harmless. But the law is impersonal. What goes in comes out. The subconscious has no automatic defense system. It neither filters nor selects like conscious intelligence does. It simply receives, records, and reproduces. Hence the urgency to discipline your mental diet with the same rigor you would care for a newborn's nutrition. If you feed yourself day after day with images of fear, your emotions will turn acidic, your nervous system will overload, and your body will react with contractions, inflammations, or blockages. If you mentally consume hatred, you will produce internal hostility that sooner or later will damage your immune system. And if you nourish your thoughts with doubt, you will sow paralysis and harvest inconsistent results. The subconscious, continually receiving this type of food, responds with a corresponding construction, a spiritually malnourished life, lacking emotional health and visible achievements. On the other hand, when you introduce mental images of harmony, words of life, and thoughts of gratitude, the deep mind transforms them into strength, clarity, enthusiasm, and regeneration. A person who chooses to visualize love, peace, and provision is not escaping reality. They are feeding their vibrational structure with the only thing that strengthens it. What you vividly imagine often and with feeling becomes real substance for your subconscious, and what is real there will become visible here. This explains why some patients heal when listening to a healing affirmation, while others close off upon hearing a diagnostic narrative. The deep mind does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. Everything emotionally introduced is absorbed as substance. This law works for everyone, all the time, without exception. That is why you must be as careful with what you hear, repeat, and accept as normal. If you allow an image of ruin as inevitable to enter, you are already signing the order for your subconscious to begin constructing it. If you let television, the news, or others install ideas of conflict, pain, or lack in your mind, you will be consuming garbage thoughts, and your body, your emotions, and your circumstances will begin to show it. It is important to understand that your mind never empties. It is always consuming something. If you don't choose what it will ingest, your environment will do it for you. And the environment, in most cases, offers a toxic diet: complaints, comparisons, conflicts, symbolic violence, anxiety disguised as entertainment. You need to replace that mental food with living nourishment, constructive images, declarations of truth, scenes of peace, words of love. Every time you intentionally visualize a beautiful scene, You are feeding your inner field with spiritual proteins that build healthy organs, stable relationships, and clear decisions. Once a man told me he had spent years repeating phrases like, "I am worthless, nobody loves me, I will surely fail." His body began to degenerate, developing problems in his skin, intestines, and bones. When he realized those phrases were his diet, and that his body was simply expressing the toxicity of what he had mentally ingested, he decided to radically change his inner regimen. He began telling himself, "I am valuable because God lives in me. My self-love is reborn each day. Life supports me in everything." Within weeks, his energy changed. In months, his health was restored. And in a year, his life had taken a complete turn. The soul, like the body, cannot survive on artificial food. It cannot digest hatred. It cannot assimilate fear. It cannot function on guilt. It needs nourishment of truth, beauty, forgiveness, faith. This is not poetry, it is mental law. And like all laws, it operates independently of what you believe about it. Therefore, from now on, start observing which images you consume throughout the day, which phrases you utter as part of your daily language, and which thoughts you repeat unconsciously. That is your mental diet, and whatever is in it will soon be expressed in your life. In the coming days, I invite you to conduct a small experiment. Make a list of the 5 phrases you repeat most during the week. Write them down. Then observe if those phrases directly correspond to what you are experiencing. You will see they do. Then replace those phrases with others that exactly represent the outcome you desire. Repeat them decisively for 1 week. Your deep mind will begin to receive them as new nourishment, and very soon the results will manifest, because what goes in always comes out. Chapter 8. Mathematical Miracles, How the Subconscious Multiplies, What it Understands as True. The subconscious mind does not calculate like an accountant, nor reason like a mathematician. Its logic is not analytical, but exponential. A single seed planted with enough conviction and emotion can produce a harvest 1,000 times greater. This is not a metaphor, it is an operational law. The subconscious does not evaluate proportions, nor measure in grams or centimeters. What it perceives as true, it reproduces, expands, turns into substance, and does so without limit. This law has been proven thousands of times by people who, just before sleeping, repeated with absolute conviction a simple phrase like, "God multiplies all that is good in my life," or "My mind is open to limitless wealth." These phrases were not recited as an empty ritual, but introduced as affirmations of certainty in a relaxed state when the conscious mind no longer argues. In the following weeks, these people witnessed a small debt disappearing miraculously, a lost relationship reconnecting, or a seemingly chronic illness beginning to reverse without medical explanation. What happened? What was sown was recognized by the deep mind as law, and being law, it multiplied. The subconscious mind has no problem turning $1 into 100, an idea into an empire, a prayer into a clinical miracle. But for that, it must perceive the affirmation as true. And here lies the key. It only multiplies what it understands as truth. It doesn't matter if it's beneficial or destructive. If you feel it is true, it multiplies it. If you believe all men betray, your subconscious will attract and multiply that experience. If you believe you don't deserve to prosper, life will confirm it to you everywhere. But if you decide to declare and feel that you are worthy of health, abundance, and love, that affirmation will become the starting point of a new mental geometry, and that geometry will expand into every corner of your existence. A woman in New Jersey told me that for years she unconsciously repeated the phrase, "I barely make ends meet." She said it when paying rent, checking prices at the supermarket, and receiving her salary. That phrase was not just a comment, it was a seed. And that seed was watered with emotion, anxiety, resignation. The obedient subconscious multiplied the pattern. For years, this woman's life was a testimony of dignified scarcity, until one day she decided to try the opposite. She began to repeat without exception before sleeping, and upon waking. My provision is infinite because God is my source. At first, she did it mechanically, but after 2 weeks, she began to feel it, and when she felt it, her reality changed. She received a better job offer, an old client paid a long overdue debt, and a relative transferred her an unexpected sum. Her testimony was clear. Everything changed when I changed what I considered true. The subconscious does not need to understand details. It doesn't care if logic says it's impossible. It does not calculate how you will get from point A to point B. It simply acts as a multiplier. You decide what to input into its equation. It takes care of the rest. When you introduce the certainty that you are guided, supported, and prospered by a greater intelligence, that belief becomes a generating formula, and the entire universe begins to behave as if that formula were a law of nature, because to your subconscious it is. This explains why Jesus said that faith as small as a mustard seed is enough. It is not massive faith, but pure certainty. A clear idea, uncontaminated by doubts, fears, or explanations, is sufficient to move invisible structures that will shape visible results. The deep mind needs you to feel what you say. Repeating is not enough. Emotion is the activator. Love, gratitude, joyful expectation are mental fertilizers. Use your inner voice to plant ideas. Use your heart to water them and wait. The harvest will come multiplied. A young accountant, after losing everything in a failed investment, fell into depression. For weeks he told himself, "I am a failure." He said it with tears, rage, and conviction. The subconscious took note and multiplied it. His friendships faded, his health declined, and his income disappeared, until one night he heard on a radio program, "What you say, you make law for your mind." That night he decided to repeat one single affirmation, "I am rebuilding my life from the divine power within me." He repeated it for 21 consecutive nights before sleeping, with a hand on his chest. After a month he began to receive opportunities. It wasn't magic, it was law. He planted a new truth and the subconscious multiplied it. You can do this too, but wishing is not enough. You must plant a clear, clean, repeated idea. You must affirm it with presence, without irony, without doubt, as if it were already true. Because if your deep mind accepts it as true, it will do the work itself. That simple, that powerful. Practical exercise. 4. The mechanism of inner multiplication. The purpose of this exercise is to retrain your deep mind to multiply not what you fear, but what you consciously and deliberately desire. This is not fantasy or an empty suggestion technique. It is speaking the language of the subconscious, which is the language of clear image, positive emotion, and affirmation repeated with certainty. This mechanism is already active in you. The exercise consists of taking control of its direction. Suggested duration 15 minutes daily, divided into 3 consecutive phases: creative visualization, verbal affirmation, and emotional sealing. 1. Creative visualization. See it already delivered. Sit comfortably with your back straight and eyes closed. For 5 minutes, breathe deeply and visualize a result you want, but already fulfilled. Don't see it as the future. See it as a memory, something that already happened and you are grateful to have experienced. If it is health, imagine your body already healed and walking with energy. If prosperity, imagine a bank transfer already made with the exact amount. If family harmony, imagine a real conversation where everything was resolved. Make the image sharp and evoke a soft but real emotion, serene joy, gratitude, or peace. 2. Verbal affirmation. Multiply this idea in me. Next, repeat quietly or in a medium-low voice for 5 minutes, an affirmation in present tense. Use a direct, brief phrase with a sense of fulfillment. Examples: my path is open, my good is already manifesting. Everything I think in harmony multiplies with divine order. I am receiving multiplied what I sowed with love. Don't improvise many phrases. Choose one and repeat it with steady rhythm like a mantra, but with clear intention. The subconscious does not respond to variety, it responds to insistence. 3. Seal of fulfillment. It is already done. During the last 5 minutes, close the process with a mental seal. Place your right hand on your solar plexus, just below the sternum, and say softly, "Only once." This is done. This idea is planted. Good is growing in me. Then remain silent. Breathe. Don't try to think more about it. Give the command and withdraw. The subconscious has already received it. This exercise should be done at least once a day, preferably before sleeping. The nighttime has an energetic advantage. The conscious mind withdraws, and the subconscious remains open, permeable, ready to work on what it has been given. Remember, it doesn't matter if the external world hasn't yet reflected it. This exercise is not based on external proof, but on internal law. What you plant today manifests tomorrow, but only if you plant it with certainty, without pulling the seed out each night with doubts or contradictions. Extended application. Keep a notebook exclusively for your multiplication affirmations. Write the same phrase every day for a week, 10 times a day. Do not change the words. Do not adjust the intention. A clear affirmation repeated with direction is more powerful than confused wishes. Reminder: the subconscious is fertile soil. Sow with intention, water with emotion, and keep the field free of mental weeds. The miracle, as always, will be consequence, not coincidence. Chapter 9, Original Sin, Forgetting You Have Power. It's not about an apple or a serpent. The true original sin, the one that still persists in most human minds, is not having disobeyed an external command, but having forgotten the internal authority. The moment when man stopped speaking to his body with loving dominion, when he gave up directing his organs, his destiny, and his conditions with the living word, was the true beginning of his fall. From that instant on, he began to seek outside what he should have claimed within. When the Bible says, "They hid from the presence of God among the trees of the garden," Genesis 3:8, it is describing the most common psychological mechanism of the human being, hiding from their own power instead of exercising it. The Garden of Eden is not a geographical place, but a state of consciousness, and hiding among the trees is like taking refuge in excuses, symptoms, diagnoses, social structures that deny the internal divinity. The voice that walks through the garden every evening still calls you by name, but you may no longer know how to answer, as the child who knows his word is law. This chapter invites you to stop interpreting sin as a moral act and begin to understand it as a failure in mental direction. The original sin was mental, believing you were separate from the creative power, that you had to beg instead of instruct, that your health depended on pills and not decrees, that your prosperity was random and not sown by your sustained word. The universal law responds to the concept you have of yourself. If you see yourself as a weak, limited, guilty, and disconnected creature, the subconscious takes that as a command. It does not evaluate if that image is theologically correct, it simply responds. That is why those who consider themselves unworthy, incurable sinners, or predestined victims end up embodying that programming. The subconscious needs no arguments to obey. It only requires a sustained, repeated, and emotionally charged image. Adam's sin was not eating a fruit, but digesting an idea. The idea that he should fear instead of reflect power. Just as digestion transforms food into flesh, the mind transforms ideas into reality. Eating from the forbidden tree means internalizing thoughts of separation, and the immediate consequence was the shame of the body. And they knew they were naked. In other words, they felt vulnerability where there had once been power. The fall perpetuates itself every time you doubt that your words have effect. When you say, "This is impossible," the subconscious does not argue. It simply stops seeking a solution. When you say, "I can't go on," your nervous system slows down, your glands decrease optimal secretion, and your muscles adopt postures of defeat. This is not poetry or symbolism, but spiritual physiology. But just as there was a mental fall, there is also a possible restoration, and it begins with the verb. The verb is not just speaking, it is creating. As it is written, "And God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light." You too can say, "Let there be health," and there will be health. But it is not enough to repeat phrases like trained parrots. The verb must be charged with certainty. It must flow from an inner place, where you know that you and the power that created you are not separate. This is true repentance, not weeping over past sins, but changing the direction of your consciousness in the present. The word metanoia, used in the Gospels to mean repentance, actually means to change your mind. Thus, redemption does not consist of asking forgiveness from an external deity, but in recovering your position as internal authority. Every sick body is a prayer misdirected. Every sustained failure is a forgotten decree. Every meaningless life is a divine word that has not been pronounced. This chapter does not accuse you. It reminds you. It does not judge you. It calls you. It invites you to reclaim your place in the Eden of your mind, not as someone expelled, but as one who finally remembers the door through which they can return. The subconscious never expelled anyone. It only waits for instructions. If you sowed fear for years, it produced symptoms. If you sowed doubt, it generated delays. If you sowed judgments, it cultivated conditions that seemed deserved. But if today you choose to sow with clear words, just affirmations, and visualizations charged with peace, it will obey, because that is its eternal mandate, to obey ceaselessly what you declare as truth. In every cell, every organ, every vibration of your body lives a fragment of the original verb, and that verb still waits to be pronounced with authority. True power was never lost, only forgotten, and your task now is to remember it, not from nostalgia, but from conscious action, because the original sin perpetuates itself in passivity and is corrected in the restored verb. Chapter 10, the earlier Gospel, living as if you already know. Living as if you already know is the ultimate command for anyone who has understood the mental law. There is no higher revelation than this. The subconscious responds to the attitude of the already received. It does not obey pleas or conditions. It activates at the emotion of certainty, the behavior that acts as if the invisible is already manifesting. This is the true inner gospel, not repeating doctrines, but embodying their effect. Why keep asking if you have already sown? Why keep checking your symptoms if you have already ordered health? What sense is there in looking at your bank account from a place of lack if you have already decreed abundance? The great mistake of the modern devotee is not lack of faith, but the delay in assuming that the answer has already been sent. Before they call, I will answer. Isaiah 65:24. This is not poetic metaphor, it is an operational law. Living as if you already know is not mystical pretense, it is a scientific conduct of the soul. When a farmer plants a seed, he does not dig it up every hour to see if it is sprouting. He waters, protects, waits, but above all acts as one who already knows the result. His conduct is consistent with his faith. So is yours. Many still live in contradiction. They say they have faith, but their words deny it. They say they have surrendered their life to the law, yet live as if still victims of chance. This chapter urges you to correct that inconsistency. You have already planted new ideas. You have affirmed health, peace, and provision. So walk, breathe, and decide like someone who has already been heard. I recall a listener from my radio program in New York. She wrote to me, "Dr. Morphy, I repeated your affirmation, 'My body is the temple of the Spirit, and every cell obeys the voice of harmony.' At first, I believed nothing, but I said it out of discipline. By the second week, my eczema disappeared. But the most amazing thing is that I no longer needed to look in the mirror every morning to confirm the healing. I simply lived as if it had already happened, and it did. That is active faith, not emotional hope, but directed. True faith is not shouting or crying in a church. It is behaving, thinking, and speaking from the result. As Jesus said, 'Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours.' Mark 11:24. It does not say believe after, it says believe while. So the final question is this: which version of yourself are you playing on life's stage? The beggar who waits, or the CEO creator who has already received and behaves accordingly? The subconscious does not wait for perfect emotions. It waits for consistent signals. If you speak as healed, walk as healed, visualize as healed, and bless as healed, the body will adjust its chemistry to obey that identity. You don't need perfection, only persistence. You don't need to understand every mystery, just apply what you already know. You don't need to prove anything to God, only to yourself. Because the subconscious gospel is not a new religion. It is the practical application of eternal truth. The kingdom of God is within you. Start today. Repeat the affirmations not like someone trying to force a miracle, but like someone reaffirming an already fulfilled instruction. Act with gratitude before seeing results. The subconscious does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly assumed. If your attitude is that you have already been blessed, your body, your finances, your relationships, all will begin to align with that vibration. And don't do it just for yourself. Teach it, pass it on. This knowledge is not to hide in a digital folder or a corner of the mind. It is to plant as a seed of light in other minds. As a young man I taught this principle to in Chicago said, "Dr. Morphy, I didn't know I had so much power until I gave it away to someone else." End this book with a practical decision. Live as if you already know, because deep down, you already do. Your soul has heard these truths before. It just needed a reminder. Now that you have it, choose. Will you keep repeating the old gospel of waiting and guilt, or will you proclaim with your actions the inner gospel of conscious action? Final prayer. Father within me, intelligence that formed me, energy that sustains me, I now accept my unity with you. I declare that every cell obeys harmony, every thought plants peace, every word creates well-being. I live as one who has already been instructed, guided, provided for, and healed. I do not wait for miracles, I manifest them, because your law in me is perfect, immediate, and loving. From this moment I am a living channel of your good, for myself and for all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen.